Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a fantastic day. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. You might have noticed, or rather, if you've, just realistically, if you've been following the channel for any more than like the last 10 days, literally just 10 days or so, you remember the gigantic ups and downs of the market. The beginning of January, Bitcoin's price was relatively high. Higher than it currently is right now. And then we saw the grayscale selling dip. And a lot of the predictions and like momentum that we saw in people talking positively around Bitcoin kind of teetered off a light bit, because before that, everyone was only talking about how high prices were going to go, where things were going to be by the end of each individual week, moving up until we actually got to the halving. And then during that time period, once again, over the course of the last maybe 11, 12 days, maybe maximum, the language changed quite a bit. As far as there were a lot of people talking about that Bitcoin was going to collapse. You might have remember that was like the title of one of the videos as well. Like, people think Bitcoin's about to collapse, because a lot of the people over the course of that time were basically talking about Bitcoin has to go down to 31,000. There were predictions once again for a $20,000 Bitcoin. I'm not sure where that kind of lunacy comes from, but that's the kind of stuff that people end up throwing out there. So as we've gotten now to the point where it appears as if Grayscale's selling has slowed down significantly, and we see a large amount of Bitcoin being purchased by the ETF holders, being purchased by whales, and Bitcoin's price going back up. We're now ranging in the prediction area. For those of you who haven't seen, people think we are going to be somewhere between $50,000 to $60,000 by the end of February. Right. This is what happens when we have optimism once again in the market. Not to be forgotten, Mr. Tim Draper, who used to be more of a bi-daily figurehead within the cryptocurrency space, has once again ripped and roared back into the spotlight. It's usually Tim Draper, Novogratz, Raoul Pal, the guy whose name is like Sathwar, the guy who wants to buy the Hamptons, Samson Mao, the guy from Blockstream, Kathy Wood, and there's like two other people whose names I'm missing. Scaramucci, and the last one eludes me for some reason at the moment. But Tim Draper's back to talk about, as prices are rising, how optimistic he is and the future that he sees in front of him for all of us when it comes to Bitcoin and the economy. In a Bloomberg interview, billionaire investor Tim Draper has reaffirmed his predictions for Bitcoin, despite previously missing his forecast. I'll explain in a little bit exactly what was missed. Draper humorously said, "I don't know why anyone is still listening to me if I missed that one." Hilarious. The problem was, for those of you who missed it, is that a lot of people were predicting in 2020, and I mean the beginning of 2020, where the market was going to go after the halving. Part of the problem is, for those of you who weren't on planet Earth at the time, everyone assumed, I'll say, the worst. Yeah, that's the nice way of saying it. For those of you who have forgotten what took place and the events that were going on and being at home and what that felt like, scrolling endlessly on Instagram looking for anything to do while you were trying to figure out how to not work and do all these other things. For some reason, a lot of people have forgotten that. And I'm not even joking. For some, is out of the public consciousness for some reason, as far as like just being at home all day. A lot of people forget that event took place, and a lot of the predictions that we had back then, I think, were actually spot on. But because of the 18 to 24 months of events, This is why prices did not go basically as planned. It was all but a given, at least to many people. The Bitcoin was going to go over 100K. It was literally written in the stars. If you look at the charts for 2021, you can even tell that the push down was coming from just overgeneralized fears of everything that we had going on, the inflation we had going on. And I don't have to elaborate. If you don't remember, look at the news. For those of you who do remember, you kind of get it. So a lot of the predictions back then were basically for anywhere from a $90,000 to a $120,000 Bitcoin. We barely just about hit 70,000. We didn't hit the 100K. And therefore, a lot of people were like, this is why I personally, I see a lot of pessimism in this particular bull run that we are in, have one foot in, are currently going to be running up to, whatever the case, how you're gauging the actual movements and numbers. A lot of the pessimism that I see is because a lot of the people who got into the market in 2020 and 2021, and the numbers didn't hit where they were told that they were going to go. Not understanding that the situation that we were in was literally unprecedented. We've seen Bitcoin's price through the other halvings and through the other charts basically kind of mimicking itself, or rhyming, as many people say. And this is why I think a lot of people now, when I ask on Twitter, when I talk to friends, people who, what have you, who are in the market, and I ask people where they think prices are going, how high things will be, it's interesting to see that the only people who have generalized optimism, and I was in a nice way, the only people who have optimism are people who either have money, like a lot of money, or who have been in the market before, so they know what the actual market trends are going to be. A lot of people who are more pessimistic, and I say pessimistic as far as like the previous all-time high was 70,000, and they're expecting maybe 110,000, come from people who are more than likely brand new to the market, who've barely done one cycle, and the other cycle was during Coco Roro. So they haven't seen like the full effect of a euphoric market in the cryptocurrency space. They only know something where people were trying to make money, and then fear set in and panic selling followed on top of stock market selling and all these other things and stimulus and yada, yada, yada. So thus the him saying, I don't know why anyone listened to me. It's more of everyone who had a prediction back then kind of got flack for it. You might remember Plan B has been in this space for a while. I mean, not the, we haven't known about him since 2012, 2013, but he's been around for a while. And all of his predictions have relatively come true. He typically has a three-tiered approach, like the bearish case, the average case, and then like the most bullish on the chart. He always has these. And everyone was expecting his charts to come true in 2020 and 2021. And then when they did not, everyone was like, well, he's a fluke. And it's like, you don't remember what the world was like back then. Of course, things didn't go completely as planned. However, Tim Draper's confidence in Bitcoin remains unshaken. He has a revised prediction. He's saying $250,000 by 2025. This is on the lower end of what we've been seeing. I know that sounds completely insane for those of you who have not been here for the last couple of weeks and or months, maybe even a year. If you're back new to the channel, hello once again if you were here before. The average prediction that we're getting for next year is teetering anywhere from 300,000 to 600,000 per Bitcoin. I heard someone suck their teeth. Like, I get it. I understand the pessimism. But once again, the problem for you is going to be when the market does pump, and I'm expecting, as I have for a while after the halving, or even as we move up to the halving, which is still the current prediction there for the $50,000 to $60,000 by the end of February. The euphoric phase of the market is something that's going to be quite peculiar to you, because a lot of people, how do I say this? People tend to not know what to do with themselves. And I know that sounds a little weird, you won't know when or if to cash out. You will see prices going up and you will believe that they are going to double, triple, and quadruple even further after you see these ridiculous numbers on your computer screen or otherwise. But it's going to get to a point where we will hit a lot of these really crazy numbers. I told all of you before, for me, a $150,000 to $200,000 Bitcoin doesn't seem that insane on just a normal graphical movement basis of what we've seen from adoption and from previous cycles before. The thing that really gets me is these numbers kind of correlate nearly directly with the amount of accumulation that we're seeing just from the issuers of Bitcoin ETFs. For those of you who have not been here, I know I keep saying that phrase a lot, and it's because I know that everyone's not watching every single video. So there's going to be gaps of information that people are definitely missing, especially if you took a week off and did not look at prices and you come back to a video, you hear me talking about Tim Draper, you're like, I didn't see prices go down. Like what's all the kind of news that's been going on? The news that we've gotten even recently about the issuers of Bitcoin ETFs is that they collectively, these few companies now hold over 100,000 Bitcoin, and they did that over the course of literally just 2.5 weeks. And the idea is that if they continue this actual level of accumulation and we see more interest in Bitcoin ETFs as the price goes higher, which is the logical effect of what people think is going to happen, these companies would then probably own 300, 400, 500,000 Bitcoin by the end of summer, maybe August, maybe September, somewhere around there. And when you have that much Bitcoin, air quotes, off the table, the price is going to move just with small buying pressure, because we already know that nearly all the Bitcoin is being held by whales. So a lot of times I try to keep in mind that these people aren't geniuses. They're not like wizards or mystics in some sort of way where they can simply predict a number, but it's more of if we were going to hit 150,000 just based off of retail accumulation and everything that's been happening on a basis level over the course of the last couple of years, when you talk about nearly all liquid Bitcoin being taken off of the market by these institutions, of course, you can then get to the assumption that we will hit these higher numbers. Will we hit $500,000 Bitcoin? I'll be able to tell you by January next year. I know that sounds ridiculous to be like, I'll tell you in 1 year, but it's more of the predictions that we keep getting for this year range anywhere from 150 to 200,000. A lot of people are saying, anyway, the point is I could literally go on about this for hours as far as like prices and where things are going and the level of accumulation, but $250,000 doesn't sound that far off. And I think for a lot of people who are newer to the market, it sounds weird because I think it also unlocks a level of FOMO that a lot of people maybe don't want in their lives. If you have, like let's say, for instance, how do I phrase this? Let's say, for instance, you could go into the future and you actually see that Bitcoin does go to $315,000 per coin by September 2025. It puts you in a very different position mentally if you went back to the present, because you would then understand that the accumulation that you should have done should have been higher, that you should have been buying more. One of the things that usually hits people, and myself as well, I'm also in that box, very hard, is towards the end of a cycle, towards the end of a bull run over the course of a 2-year period, you get this really weird, oh man, I really shoulda. Why didn't I buy that? I should have done this. I've had it every single cycle. I haven't cashed out of crypto, but it's more of I look at how much that I have and I multiply that by how much I could have gotten, which I know is a lightly toxic trait when it comes to finance and economics, because of course we all could have done more, but it usually ends up being the situation where a lot of people, my friends included, we have situations where we sit there and we talk and we're like, if I had only put twice as much into this, or like sometimes I've been like, I only put 500 into this coin. Why didn't I put 3, 4, 5,000? Like, why didn't I work harder, make more money, put it into this coin? I would have X, which would be enough to then buy X. It's just kind of I don't know. Anyway, very long conversation that can be had, but it's more of a we'll see kind of thing. And this is what I think always takes people by surprise. And this is what gets new people into the market. Because at the end of a cycle, you have the realization of how much money you've made and also how much money you could have made. And this is what keeps people in the market because you understand the power of going back to 2017. If you put $1,000 into a coin, at the end of that year, you would have made $600,000. You know exactly which coin I'm talking about. So 1,000 turns into 600K, and then you sit there and the market begins to fall and you go, I'm going to get it next cycle. And this is what keeps people in the market because they understand the power of being able to make money. So a lot of people got into the market during this crazy event, which is now 4 years ago. 4. Isn't that the craziest thing you've ever heard of in your entire life? Someone said that to me the other day. They were like, you realize that was 4 years ago? Isn't that weird? And the skepticism, therefore, then remains as if these people were still brand new to the market. But everyone who's been through these markets before, who saw all the big money on their screen and who realized to themselves, oh man, I should have put more into the market, understand how much money there actually is to be made. And this is why I think there's a big difference between people who are bulls, perma bulls, and people who are like still skeptical about the market. But you'll see. After his initial 2020 forecast did not materialize, the billionaire is now attributing the miss to, he says, underestimating the U.S. government's cautious stance towards the cryptocurrency. It has nothing to really do with that. What I think took a lot of people by surprise is that, one, we got into the situation where the U.S. dollar was like really inflating, which I think even took a lot of people, cryptocurrency enthusiasts, also by surprise. Simply because it was something that had been spoken about for a while, that the U.S. dollar would inflate, and like not the normal 1 to 2% per year, that it would do like really bad. We started seeing in stores that prices were like doubling and tripling for like broccoli and corn and all this other stuff. And I think that was kind of like you can talk about the demise of the U.S. dollar as long as you want, but when you begin to see it really happening, it kind of was like, oh snaps, this is it. Like this is the moment like we've all been talking about. What I think took people by surprise was how serious the U.S. government actually is about protecting the U.S. dollar. That's what I think was the kicker for a lot of people. And for some reason, a lot of people just assumed that the U.S. government was just going to allow the dollar to dissipate into oblivion at some point. No, that's not how it works. This is why I keep seeing articles still about people talking about BRICS, B-R-I-C-S, overtaking the U.S. dollar and how these terrible, terrible economies, and I mean like gutter economies, are going to merge together to overthrow the U.S. dollar. And you have no idea how strong the U.S. dollar actually is. And we've even heard like in words from the Fed, from Jerome Powell standing on stage. He was like, I don't care if people lose their jobs or their homes or their monies. We are going to get inflation under control to save the US dollar. And people were like, oh, sure. And then everyone had a really tough time when they found out exactly what he meant as far as job losses, everything, anyway. So, I think that took a lot of people in crypto by surprise, of how strong the US dollar is and how the US government's not going to like let this go very likely. I don't know if you've seen a lot of the pushback in the last couple of, maybe like a week or two, from certain US political figures or even like former heads of the SEC who are now worried about the, it's not the economy. They're worried about the current state of the economic system because of what Bitcoin could do to it. That's not in a, raising your fist revolution kind of way. It's more of they understand that Bitcoin can be something monstrously huge to the point where people would choose to use Bitcoin over the current system. And the issue is that when you issue ETFs and it begins to permeate further into the economy and they do extremely well, and then people make more Bitcoin derivatives and other things based off of Bitcoin. We've already seen in the US and many other countries, they're starting to, companies are starting to create Bitcoin like retirement funds. We're also seeing like Bitcoin sovereign funds and all these other things that are beginning to pop up. This is what they mean. So the next time you hear or read anything about like Bitcoin can cause problems to the economy, or Bitcoin may be a threat to the US dollar and things like that, it's not that they're saying that Bitcoin's literally going to get up and have like a boxing match with the US dollar or the economy. It's that if Bitcoin, the way that Bitcoin is created, it is made to be spread out thinly. If we had a more even spread of the coin so that everyone can use it in real time when they want, how they want, depending on if they want to use the core layer, if they want to use Lightning, if they want to use, I mean, Liquid is more for exchanges, but you kind of get the point of what I'm trying to make. And therefore, if it becomes everything and it is in everything and things are priced also in it, what's the point of using the old system? And the people you will normally hear this from are the people who made their money from the old system. This is why a lot of times you'll hear Mr. Jamie Dimon or the other guy, the guy who's a billionaire, Berkshire Hathaway. I can't remember his name. Whatever. I'm drawing a blank right now. You'll hear these people talk negatively about Bitcoin is because they made their money the own way. They don't want this new system or what could be a new system, because these people aren't idiots. They have charts, they have numbers, they have analysts who tell them the potential future of these things, but it also then in kind of a way becomes a threat to what they already have or what they're holding or what they're doing. Why would I want some new thing to pop up and make other people rich and take money away from me when I became a billionaire because of the old system that my ancestors set up to be able to only benefit me? That's kind of the thing that we see going on. So you're going to see a lot more of that popping up over the next couple of years. But it was the former head of the SEC, some former head of the SEC, and a couple of other people who are now like, you know, maybe we shouldn't have Bitcoin ETFs. It's basically because like they see what's coming. It's kind of this, you do everything that you can to protect the current system because the current system benefits you. And this is why you are seeing so many people getting into Bitcoin. It's not only the idea of becoming rich and wealthy from this new market. I mean, that plays a major part, but it's also when you have the outside force of people who've been left out of the system, the wealth system, the prosperity system, these people begin to push back. And these are the hundreds of millions of people you see getting into the market, if I said that correctly. The people who are fighting against us are the people who already are rich, who don't essentially want us to become rich. Think of the entire Wall Street bets thing. And the people who are getting into the market now understand that there's like a space for them. And this is why we continue to see more and more people entering the cryptocurrency market. I don't want to say that we're the outsiders. That sounds a little bit too weird, but you understand, hopefully, what I'm saying. Anyway, Draper believes that Bitcoin is gaining traction in countries with volatile currencies, which it is. We've seen as well a lot of news in other countries. Years ago, they were using stable coins. For those of you who, I mean, this is old, like 6, 7, 8-year-old news, where a lot of people in different countries whose currencies were inflating, they were actually using Tether to transact between themselves, and a lot of governments shut that down completely. And this is why we're seeing this like hyper jump towards these countries also making their own stable coins and or talking about creating their own central bank digital currencies. And then the same exact note we're now seeing as well. And I mean, I want to say about dozen or 2 dozen countries around the world who are really doing bad economically. We can see that they're trying to or are signing up to a number of cryptocurrency exchanges, making new wallets from certain IP addresses around the world and things like that. And we see exactly how this is spreading mainly amongst countries that are like not doing too well. One of the main ones that we keep seeing in the news is Turkey. So you have Argentina, you have Venezuela, you have Colombia, but mainly Turkey continues to get into the news a lot as we have received news that apparently, allegedly, economic policies within the country are doo-doo. And therefore, people are trying to figure out a way to like really spread the word of crypto and or buying Bitcoin. And it only benefits the people who are then holding the Bitcoin when Bitcoin ends up going up by 7, 8, 9% over the course of a month, as opposed to their fiat currency losing about 18% over the course of a month as well. It's a really interesting thing that we're seeing actually happening. Like it is actual hyper Bitcoinization taking place in front of us. I think a lot of people expect hyper Bitcoinization to be like like that, like immediate, like hyper Bitcoinization. It'll take another 10 years or so, but we're well on our way to doing it. He said people like to do business in Bitcoin in those countries. It turns out those using dollars are probably better for a criminal. I guess a bit of a shoulder something, I don't know, to the idea of only criminals using Bitcoin. And we had a thing in one of the most recent videos. It was who was it? It wasn't the FBI. There was some larger organization who basically was going through like crime, and they found out that nearly all of it happens in fiat, and it happens nearly almost completely in US dollars as well, which is completely unsurprising. He said he envisions a future where Bitcoin transcends being just a store of value, becoming a universally accepted currency. I think we're also on our way there as well. I wish I had a time machine. I just want to see like where this is all going. I have a friend. Hello, friend, if you're listening. We talk about this so often, and it's literally just I want to see what happens. There's so many predictions and ideas, and even as far as we've come in the last 15 years with Bitcoin, is actually completely monumental. Think of how it's everywhere. Everyone knows what Bitcoin is. They may not know specifically what it does, but everyone knows the word. Usually, typically anyone under the age of 40, even 45, dare I say 50, knows what Bitcoin is. And probably they either own some or they have a friend who owns some. Like there's some kind of a connection somewhere in there. It's interesting to see exactly where we are. And then even over the course of the idea of the next 10 to 15 years, which seems far off, but it's really not, exactly how far ahead we will be. Draper has predicted a significant shift in financial dynamics, stating there will be a moment in time. This is a little weird. I don't know why he said it this way. He said there will be a moment in time where I can buy food, clothing, and shelter all in Bitcoin, and people won't want dollars anymore. Most people don't refer to a home or an apartment as shelter. I don't know. Maybe he's just using like an old phrase or something like, oh gosh, I need shelter. I don't know why it is a little weird wording there. Anyway, yeah, this was popular news. I'll say popular news. A lot of these people are popping back up in the news once again, talking about where they see the market going, how high they think prices are going to go. It's going to be a wild journey. And for those of you who've stuck around or have been around for a while, either you know what's coming or you will see what's coming. I'm very excited for it just because I always, it's one thing to tell friends what's going to happen in the market, and then for them to actually see it. Because even 2021, if you were here, was still completely wild. Like people were making huge amounts of money, not only from crypto, but also from NFTs. And I had a lot of friends who were naysayers since around 2018, 2019. They looked at the market as prices were down. Bitcoin had deflated. Why would I want to get into the market? Why would I put my money into that when the price is so low? And then the realization that they had the time to be able to do so over the course of 2018, 2019 began to buy into the market at like the end of 2020. In 2021, they had made 7, 8, 9x of the money that they had put in. And they're like, I wish I had put in more. So it's kind of one of those things like it's almost like a TMI kind of Christmas thing where like I just want people to like be able to unwrap their crypto gifts and see exactly what I've been talking about over the course of these years. But yeah, I think it's going to be a very wild ride. I get a lot of I get it. Please stop screaming at me. I get a lot of people screaming at me on Twitter that Bitcoin's exactly where it's supposed to be. Cool, I got it. I'll stop mentioning it. Because I was saying before, like logically to me, Bitcoin's price should be a lot higher just based off of mathematical accumulation, the amount of people in the market. But I get it. All right, everyone keeps, I've seen the Twitter comments as far as that they're saying that based off of charts and movements in previous cycles, Bitcoin's price is exactly where it should be. People are predicting really big movements the end of February, the beginning of March, especially. I'm telling you, once we get to the rumbles of the halving, get ready because it's going to be ridiculous. April is going to be a very interesting time. People are going to be buying. The market is going to be very volatile. A lot of people are going to be trying to sell the news, not understanding that half the amount of Bitcoin is going to be created per day, thus the halving. Prices move up. Everyone goes crazy. By summertime, That's usually when the big shebang has shabung. Yeah, I do sincerely hope that you have all enjoyed. I do hope that you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and or supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.